Chapter 19 of Emily's Quest by Lucy Maud Montgomery. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 19. October 1st, 19 This afternoon I sat at my window and alternately wrote at my new serial and watched a couple of dear, amusing, youngish maple trees at the foot of the garden. They whispered secrets to each other all the afternoon. They would bend together and talk earnestly for a few moments, then spring back and look at each other, throwing up their hands comically in horror and amazement over their mutual revelations. I wonder what new scandal is afoot in Treeland. October 10th, 19 This evening was lovely. I went up on the hill and walked about until twilight had deepened into an autumn night with a benediction of starry quietude over it. I was alone, but not lonely. I was a queen in halls of fancy. I held a series of conversations with imaginary comrades, and thought out so many epigrams that I was agreeably surprised at myself. October 28th, 19 Tonight I was out for one of my long walks, in a weird, purple, shadowy world, with great cold clouds piling up above a yellow sky, hills brooding in the silence of forsaken woods, ocean tumbling on a rocky shore. The whole landscape seemed as those who wait till judgment speak the doom of fate. It made me feel horribly alone. What a creature of moods I am! Fickle, as Aunt Elizabeth says? Temperamental, as Andrew says? November 5th, 19 What a fit of bad temper the world has indulged in. Day before yesterday she was not unbeautiful. A dignified old dame in fitting garb of brown and ermine. Yesterday she tried to ape juvenility, putting on all the airs and graces of spring, with scarves of blue hazes. And what a bedraggled and uncomely old hag she was, all tatters and wrinkles. She grew peevish then over her own ugliness, and has raged all night and day. I awakened up in the wee sma's, and heard the wind shrieking in the trees, and tears of rage and spite sleeting against the pane. November 23rd, 19 This is the second day of a heavy, ceaseless autumn rain. Really, it has rained almost every day this November. We had no mail today. The outside world is a dismal one, with drenched and dripping trees and sodden fields. And the damp and gloom have crept into my soul and spirit and sapped out all life and energy. I could not read, eat, sleep, write, or do anything unless I drove myself to do it, and then I felt as if I were trying to do it with somebody else's hands or brain, and couldn't work very well with them. I felt lusterless, dowdy, and uninviting. I even bore myself. I shall grow mossy in this existence. There, I feel better for that little outburst of discontent. It has ejected something from my system. I know that in everybody's life must come some days of depression and discouragement, when all things in life seem to lose savor. The sunniest day has its clouds, but one must not forget that the sun is there all the time. How easy it is to be a philosopher on paper. Item: if you are out in a cold pouring rain, does it keep you dry to remember that the sun is there just the same? Well, thank heaven no 2 days are ever exactly alike. There was a stormy, unrestful sunset tonight, behind the pale blanched hills, gleaming angrily through the Lombardies and the dark fir boughs in Lofty John's bush, that were now and again tossed suddenly and distressfully in a fitful gust of wind. I sat at my window and watched it. Below in the garden it was quite dark, and I could only see dimly the dead leaves that were whirling and dancing uncannily over the flowerless paths. The poor dead leaves, yet not quite dead, it seemed. There was still enough unquiet life left in them to make them restless and forlorn. They hearkened yet to every call of the wind, which cared for them no longer, but only played freakishly with them and broke their rest. I felt sorry for the leaves as I watched them in the dull, weird twilight, and angry, in a petulant fashion that almost made me laugh, with the wind that would not leave them in peace. Why should they, and I, be vexed with these transient, passionate breaths of desire for a life which has passed us by? I have not heard even from Ilse for a long time. She has forgotten me too. January 10th, 19 As I came home from the post office this evening, with 3 acceptances, I reveled in the winter loveliness around me. It was so very calm and still. The low sun cast such pure, pale tints of pink and heliotrope over the snow, and the great pale silver moon peeping over the Delectable Mountain was such a friend of mine. How much difference in one's outlook 3 acceptances make. January 20th, 19 The nights are so dreary now, and there is such a brief space of gray, sunless day. I work and think all day, and when night comes down early, gloom settles on my soul. I can't describe the feeling. It is dreadful, worse than any actual pain. Insofar as I can express it in words, I feel a great and awful weariness, not of body or brain, but of feeling, coupled with a haunting dread of the future, any future, even a happy one, nay, a happy one most of all, for in this strange mood it seems to me that to be happy would require more effort, more buoyancy than I shall possess. The fantastic shape my fear assumes is that it would be too much trouble to be happy, require too much energy. Let me be honest, in this journal if nowhere else. I know quite well what is the matter with me. This afternoon I was rummaging in my old trunk in the garret, and found a packet of the letters Teddy wrote the first year he was in Montreal. I was foolish enough to sit down and read them all. It was a mad thing to do. I am paying for it now. Such letters have a terrible resurrective power. I am surrounded by bitter fancies and unbidden ghosts. The little spectral joys of the past. February 5th, 19 Life never seems the same to me as it used to. Something is gone. I am not unhappy, but life seems a sort of negative affair. I enjoy it on the whole and have many beautiful moments. I have success, at least a sort of success, in growing measure, and a keen appreciation of all the world and the times offer for delight and interest. But underneath it all is the haunting sense of emptiness. This is all because full knee-deep lies the winter snow, and I can't go a-prowling. Wait till a thaw comes, when I can get out to the balm of the fir trees, and the peace of the white places, and the strength of the hills. What a beautiful old biblical phrase that is, and I shall be made whole once more. Last night I simply could not endure any longer the vaseful of dyed grasses on my mantelpiece. What if they had been there for 40 years? I seized them, opened the window, and strewed them over the lawn. This soothed me so that I slept like an infant. But this morning, Cousin Jimmy had gathered them all up and handed them secretly back to me, with a gentle warning not to let them blow out again. Elizabeth would be horrified. I put them back in the vase. One cannot escape one's kismet. February 22nd, 19 There was a creamy, misty sunset this evening, and then moonlight. Such moonlight. It is such a night as one might fall asleep in, and dream happy dreams of gardens and songs and companionship, feeling all the while through one's sleep the splendor and radiance of white moon world outside, as one hears soft, far-away music sounding through the thoughts and words that are born of it. I slipped away for a solitary walk through that fairy world of glamour. I went through the orchard where the black shadows of the trees fell over the snow. I went up to the gleaming white hill with the stars over it. I lurked along fir copses, dim with mystery, and along still wood aisles where the night hid from the moonshine. I loitered across a dreamland field of ebon and ivory. I had a tryst with my friend of old days, the Wind Woman, and every breath was a lyric, and every thought an ecstasy, and I've come back with a soul washed white and clean in the great crystal bath of the night. But Aunt Elizabeth said people would think me crazy if they saw me roaming around alone at this hour of the night. And Aunt Laura made me take a drink of hot black currant decoction, lest I might have taken cold. Only Cousin Jimmy partly understood. "You went out to escape, I know," he whispered. "My soul has pastured with the stars upon the meadowlands of space," I whispered in return. February 26th, 19 Jasper Frost has been coming out here from Shrewsbury of late. I don't think he will come any more, after our conversation of last night. He told me he loved me with a love that would last through eternity. But I thought an eternity with Jasper would be rather long. Aunt Elizabeth will be a little disappointed, poor dear. She likes Jasper, and the Frosts are a good family. I like him too, but he is too prim and bandboxy. "Would you like a slovenly beau?" demanded Aunt Elizabeth. This posed me, because I wouldn't. "Surely there's a happy medium," I protested. "A girl shouldn't be too particular when she is—" I feel sure Aunt Elizabeth was going to say nearly 24, but she changed it to "not entirely perfect herself." I wish Mr. Carpenter had been alive to hear Aunt Elizabeth's italics. They were killing. March 1st, 19 A wonderful music of night is coming to my window from Lofty John's bush. No, not Lofty John's bush anymore. Emily Bird Starr's bush. I bought it today, with the proceeds of my latest serial, and it is mine, mine, mine. All the lovely things in it are mine. Its moonlit vistas, the grace of its one big elm against the starlight, its shadowy little dells, its June bells and ferns, its crystalline spring, its wind music sweeter than an old Cremona. No one can ever cut it down or desecrate it in any way. I am so happy. The wind is my comrade, and the evening star my friend. March 23rd, 19 Is there any sound in the world sadder and weirder than the wail of the wind around the eaves and past the windows on a stormy night? It sounds as if all the broken-hearted cries of fair, unhappy women who died and were forgotten ages ago were being re-echoed in the moaning wind of tonight. All my own past pain finds a voice in it, as if it were moaning a plea for re-entrance into the soul that has cast it out. There are strange sounds in that night wind, clamoring there at my little window. I hear the cries of old sorrows in it, and the moans of old despairs, and the phantom songs of dead hopes. The night wind is the wandering soul of the past. It has no share in the future, and so it is mournful. April 10th, 19 This morning I felt more like myself than I have for a long time. I went out for a walk over the Delectable Mountain. It was a very mild, still, misty morning, with lovely pearl-gray skies and smell of spring in the air. Every turn and twist on that hill road was an old friend to me, and everything was so young. April couldn't be old. The young spruces were so green and companionable, with pearl-like beads of moisture fringing their needles. "You are mine," called the sea beyond Blairwater. "We have a share in her," said the hills. "She is my sister," said a poly fir tree. Looking at them, the flash came, my old supernal moment that has come so sadly seldom these past dreary months. Will I lose it altogether as I grow old? Will nothing but the light of common day be mine then? But at least it came to me this morning, and I felt my immortality. After all, freedom is a matter of the soul. Nature never did betray the heart that loved her. She has always a gift of healing for us if we come humbly to her. Corroding memories and discontents vanished. I felt suddenly that some old gladness was yet waiting for me just around the curve of the hill. The frogs are singing tonight. Why is frog such a funny, dear, charming, absurd word? May 15th, 19 I know that when I am dead I shall sleep peaceably enough under the grasses through the summer and autumn and winter, but when spring comes my heart will throb and stir in my sleep, and call wistfully to all the voices calling far and wide in the world above me. Spring and morning were laughing to each other today, and I went out to them and made a third. Ilse wrote today, a stingy little letter as far as news went, and spoke of coming home. "I'm homesick," she wrote. "Are the wild birds still singing in the Blairwater woods, and are the waves still calling beyond the dunes? I want them. And oh, to see the moon rise over the harbor, as we watched it do scores of times when we were children. And I want to see you. Letters are so unsatisfactory. There are so many things I'd like to talk over with you. Do you know, I feel a little old today. It was a curious sensation." She never mentioned Teddy's name, but she asked, "Is it true that Perry Miller is engaged to Judge Elmsley's daughter?" I don't think it is, but the mere report shows where Perry has climbed to already. End of Chapter 19. Recording by Nancy Halper. Summit, New Jersey.